Did you know that BEL'VETH can hit invisible enemies with her E attacks? Well, this video will teach you all the tips and tricks you need to know about BEL'VETH. So starting with her passive. After using an ability, BEL'VETH's next 2 attacks have increased attack speed and she becomes ghosted. Take down a large monster or champion and gain permanent attack speed as Lavender stacks. Her attacks and on-hit effects deal reduced damage and she doesn't gain attack speed on level ups. So there are a lot of things very confusing with this description. First of all, you do not always get a Lavender stack on a takedown, but rather you get a stack whenever you score a takedown within 3 seconds of damaging them. Not every assist will give you a Lavender stack, so you need to be very careful with that. When you decide to give your jungle camps to your allies, try to at least hit them before your allies take it. That way you will still get a Lavender stack on the takedown of the jungle camp. It is true that BEL'VETH doesn't gain flat attack speed on level ups, but every level up will still increase the bonus attack speed of every stack, so you actually do get more attack speed per level up. At 1.80 attack speed, she will change her attack stance in the epic Muda stance. In ARAM, BEL'VETH gains Lavender stacks from cannon and siege minions, and taking down turrets will drop void corals, but more on that later. Now going to her Q. BEL'VETH dashes in one of the 4 directions, dealing damage to all enemies she passes through and applying on-hit effects. Each direction has its own unique cooldown that scales with attack speed. Your Q is your main ability. Use it wisely to reset attack timers, especially when clearing the jungle. If you want to get more DPS off, you can use your Q against a wall to cancel the dash animation, just like Kayn does with his Q. If you use Q and then flash, you will discontinue the Q dash, but you will deal damage to the location you end up after your flash. Only the first enemy hit with your Q will receive the on-hit damage. If you hit 2 enemies at the same time, it will proc the on-hit effect on a random enemy. Enemies can stop your Q mid-air with CC. You can use stopwatch while you are traveling with your Q, and you will still continue the dash and damage the enemy. BEL'VETH's Q triggers like an ability / basic attack on the first enemy hit. That's why the first enemy gets the on-hit damage, but the second enemy will receive it as a spell damage. That's why Jax and Shen will only block the Q completely if they were the first enemy hit. If you first passed through another enemy, your Q will proc as an ability so they won't block the damage. And blinds won't cancel any damage. That also means that only the first part of your Q will heal you for the full amount with lifesteal. BEL'VETH will end her Q dash and it will still deal damage if she passes through Talia's E. Just remember that Talia can only stun you once. Sorry to interrupt the video, but if you liked the video so far, could you please consider subscribing and liking the video before you forget? I would really appreciate it and you can always unsubscribe later. Now back to the video. Now onto her W. BEL'VETH slams her tail down, dealing damage, knocking up and slowing enemies hit. Upon hitting an enemy, this ability reduces the Q dash cooldown in the direction of the champion hit. You can actually flash during your W animation to dodge enemy skill shots during the animation. There is a useful W trick where you can reset all the Q directions with just one W. If you only hit one enemy with your W, it will reset only one direction. But if you hit 2 enemies that each cover one Q direction, you will reset 2 directions. So we can take this one step further. If you then W and flash in the middle of all the enemies, it will reset all the directions of your Q. This is because every enemy will cover one Q direction since you are standing in the middle when your W hits. Your W will still go off even when you get CC'd. There are 2 ways your W can tell you if an enemy is hiding in a bush or not. First, your W will make a different sound when you hit an enemy. The second way is to Q in the direction of the suspicious bush and W it. If there is an enemy inside it, you will get your Q cooldown back. Now moving to her E. Bel'VETH channels a storm of slashes around her, gaining damage reduction and increased lifesteal. Each slash strikes the lowest health enemy and the amount of slashes scales with her attack speed. This ability looks like Aurelia's W on steroids. There is no enemy CC that can stop it. All that enemy CC does is stop the attacks for the whole CC duration, but the damage negation part will still continue. If she gets suppressed, she will do it in her E. Even Polymorph will not stop the damage reduction. While charmed, she will stop her attacks, but Fierce will do nothing. Taunts and Berserks will redirect her damage to another target, and while blinded, you will miss all your attacks. Your E will even attack invisible enemies, and the spikes will point to the enemy's direction, so also enemies that are hiding in a bush. When 2 or more enemies have the same percentage HP, the closest enemy will be targeted by the attacks. While in Tahm Kench's ultimate, you will still attack the enemies around you. While in your E, there is a 0.75 seconds timer before you can reactivate it and stop your E. So the fastest way to stop your E is to use an ability. That way you don't have to wait the 0.75 seconds timer to cancel your E. Since your E slashes 6 times in the early game, it will fully stack your lethal tempo with just one single E. When tower diving with an ally that isn't tanky, be sure to aggro some tower shots because your E can easily tank 2 of them before it wears off. You can also use your E like a Master EW when tanking damage. BEL'VETH's R has a lot to it, so don't lose me on this one. Passive: every second attack against the same target deals increased true damage, stacking infinitely. Takedowns against an epic monster or champion leaves behind a void coral. You can then consume a void coral and it will explode, slowing and dealing true damage. Afterwards, BEL'VETH changes into her true form for 1 minute. While in her true form she gains extra stats, consuming a void coral from Baron or Herald will grant you a true form for 3 minutes. And it will cause minions that die nearby to be reborn as voidlings. These voidlings can be empowered by Baron, but it will not grant the bonus attack range and AD, so you can see this like a mini Baron buff. But don't worry, the voidlings are still overpowered. A takedown from your voidlings will also give you a lavender stack. While in your true form, your Q gains the ability to dash through walls. It's like a flash where if you can dash over half the wall, you are able to dash over it. Even if an enemy pulls you away from your coral, it will still explode at the initial location. If Bard ults you, it will still go off. Or even when Tahm Kench eats you. The explosion is only interruptible by death, but not if you have a resurrect, then your R will just go on. When you hit an enemy with a basic attack or your Q, they will receive a mark under them. Thanks to this mark, you can keep track of enemy clones. The enemy clone will not have that mark if you attack them before they use the clone ability. This is a very good way to tell the clone apart from the real one. You can only stack the true damage onto one enemy at a time, so be careful when using your Q and hitting another enemy in the process. The true damage stacking is not infinite against epic monsters. It can only stack up to 6 times. Each time you use your R, you will consume all the corals around the map, but you will gain a lavender stack for each coral consumed. Thank you so much for watching, and please let me know in the comments down below who you want to see next.